watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Okay, so Floyd, you want the good news or the bad news first? Let's start with the good news. So the good news is Floyd Schofield, he's never going to have to worry about anybody avoiding him. He ain't going to never have to worry about the problems that Jaron Ennis has when it comes to fighters avoiding him, or even when Devin Haney was the most avoided. Now, the other good news for Schofield is he won this fight. And in the first 3 rounds, he looked like the sharpest version of Schofield that we had ever seen. It looked like he took all the bad criticism he received before, and he was a complete new fighter. That's the good news. The bad news is that it lasts for too long in this fight. Because Schofield, he went back to his old ways exchanging. But there's nothing wrong with exchanging. It's the way Schofield does it. He does not know how to fight on the inside. He throws these wide hooks, leaving himself wide open, which is exactly what happened in this fight. The very first time Schofield exchanged with Renee, it looked like he got hurt. Now, you guys have to understand something. When it comes to Black American fighters, they are so gifted. They're the most gifted fighters in the entire sport. So the standard is set so high that if you compare Floyd Schofield to a lot of them, Floyd looks extremely average. As Floyd Mayweather would say, straight up and down, no special effects. Now, don't get me wrong, because once again, I said the standard is set so high for Black American fighters. If Floyd wasn't black, oh man, he would be looking damn good. That would have been considered a real good performance. I mean, Virgil Ortiz, he got knocked down twice in his last performance, didn't knock out his opponent, and look what they called the fight. They said it was candidate for Fight of the Year. That's what DAZN said, which I'm going to talk about their double standards in a minute. But before I do, I want to get back to grading Floyd Schofield's performance. Now, like I said, Floyd does not know how to fight on the inside. And a lot of gifted American fighters, they know how to adjust. They know how to switch from being a boxer, a great counterpuncher, to also fighting on the inside. Like a Kermel Moulton, for example, an Abdullah Mason, a Javante Tank Davis, a Jaron Ennis, a Terrence Crawford, a Bruce Carrington, and of course TBE Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Schofield fights on the inside, he looks like a wild man. I mean, he doesn't know how to go into the high guard, catch and counter. He doesn't know how to control distance when he's in the inside. He doesn't do any type of shoulder roll. All he does is swing wild punches. Now, I will say at the beginning of the fight, maybe the first 2 or 3 rounds, when Floyd was in the orthodox stance, he showed a beautiful, powerful, stiff jab. And when he would switch southpaw, he was showing a really nice straight left. But for some reason, he went back to the old Schofield and he started swinging wildly with Renee. Once again, he got hurt. And after that, even when he was boxing, he didn't look the same way he did when he was boxing in the first 3 rounds. Now, credit to Floyd, he did pretty much dominate this fight. He won almost every single round outside of that round where he did get knocked down, which was a punch on the head, like the back of the head. It was like a flash knockdown. But outside of that, he was able to control the fight with his boxing. Now, while his boxing was good enough for this opponent, I did not feel he was boxing with a really high boxing IQ. Don't get me wrong, Schofield was landing some really good punches throughout the fight. I just don't feel he was creative enough with his attack. Because I feel if he was more creative with his attack, he could have stopped this opponent, despite the fact that he had never been stopped before. Now, because Floyd's strategy was to box in this fight, because he was fighting against a very aggressive come forward fighter, he moved so much, it didn't give him an opportunity to plant his feet and throw combinations and even go to the body and really set something up that would have hurt him. He was kind of moving around the ring so much to where he was basically just pot-shotting, just catching Renee with one good shot at a time, as opposed to catching him with a second and third shot. And I'm talking about sitting on those shots. And that's why he didn't get the knockout or even hurt Renee that much in this fight. Speaking of the knockout or not getting the knockout, now I have to talk about DAZN's boxing commentary calling this fight. Boy, I'm telling you right now, DAZN is really competing with ESPN's commentary when it comes to the worst boxing commentary in the sport of boxing, at least when it comes to a fighter on the coincidental list, like Floyd Schofield. Throughout this entire fight, the commentators, Todd Grisham and Sergio Mora, they continued to praise Rene, despite the fact that he was getting dominated in this fight. They kept praising him for being a tough Mexican with a granite chin. And they would use that to discount Schofield's performance. Todd Grisham, he said that Floyd Schofield is really struggling to get the knockout. And then he continued to say throughout the fight, Schofield, he cannot hurt the Mexican. The Mexican just keeps taking these punches and he won't budge. Then Sergio Mora, he comes out and says Mexicans are just built different. Mexicans ain't built different. If you would have put Gervonta Tank Davis in there with Rene or Abdullah Mason in there with Rene, they would have knocked him out. Now, if Abdullah Mason or Gervonta would have knocked out Rene, especially Gervonta, old media would have said that Gervonta is cherry picking. He fought a bum. They wouldn't have gave him credit for beating up or knocking out a Mexican fighter that's never been knocked out before because the Mexican was quote unquote built different. Gervonta was the first person to knock out Leo Santa Cruz. Then he moved all the way up to 140, fighting an undefeated Mexican fighter that was much bigger than Gervonta, and Gervonta knocked him out too, and Ryan Garcia as well. So you can't even use the size excuse saying that Leo was smaller than him because Gervonta was smaller than Mario Barrios. Once again, when Gervonta is knocking out the Mexicans, then the race fans, they want to criticize Gervonta. We know what time it is. Then you have another major double standard. So while they're saying that the boxer, who's the boxer in this fight, Floyd Schofield, is struggling in the co-main event, Bektemir Malakuziev, he was in the exact same situation that Schofield was in. He was fighting against an aggressive underdog, fighting against Stevens. Bektemir, he was playing the role of the boxer. Stevens was the aggressor, coming forward, taking the power puncher, Bektemir's best punches, and not one time in that fight that they say Bektemir is struggling to knock out his opponent. Boy, these black fighters, they're just built different. When Virgil Ortiz was fighting on DAZN, never did the commentators say that Virgil Ortiz is struggling to get the knockout. Now, if Jaron Ennis was fighting against Boachak and he couldn't get the knockout, they definitely would have said that. Guys, this is something that they normally say when a black fighter is fighting someone who's not black. If he's dominating the fight, but he doesn't get the knockout, they immediately start talking about how he's struggling to get the knockout. Yeah, it was a great performance, but fans want to see knockouts. Is he marketable enough to go to the next level? Those are called code words or dog whistles. Anyway, I'll wrap this video up by saying Schofield, once again, he shouldn't have too much of a problem getting opponents in the ring, getting bigger names in the ring, because he is a flaw fighter and he'll look good on someone's resume, being that they'll be the first person to beat him. Shakur Stevenson, he already came out and said that Schofield looked like food, and I'm sure a lot of other top-notch fighters, they feel the same way. We'll see how things play out for Schofield in the future. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.